Hey guys, this is Katrina Lee with IdeateTV here at San Diego Comic-Con, and I'm with Michael Abels, who's a music composer. Hey Michael.
Hey, great to be here.
Great, so tell me about the work that you've done so far.
Well, I'm best known for scoring Jordan Peele's Get Out and Us.
So how was that working with Jordan Peele and Get Out? And the success of it was great, but how was it working with him and having that music composition and working with that artistic creative field?
It's great. He's both the funniest and smartest guy in the room, and he has a really keen sense of what can just scare the pants off you, and he has a way of taking his own nightmares and creating them in a way that allows everyone else to be scared too. So it's really fun to work with him.
Awesome. So how did you get into music composition?
I remember music from even before I could walk. I just was always really responded to it. I tried writing first when I was 8 years old, and then finally when I was about 13, I started writing, and I just never looked back.
Okay, so, with this whole thing about horror, what kind of music or kind of instruments do you like specifically? Or is it just kind of musical tunes or, ideas that come out?
Well, for horror music, you really need to find unknown sounds, because we're always afraid of things where we hear a sound and we don't know what it is, right? So that's part of the challenge of when you're composing for thrillers or suspense. But Jordan really likes a lot of strings. Strings can make very scary sounds that aren't normally in the music. Yeah, and also the human voice. And so a lot of both those scores feature strings doing unusual things and also the human voice.
Oh, I had no idea that you guys use vocals in it too.
Yeah. I mean, we have both movies have a theme song, and each one is creepy in its own way, and that's singing. And then there are voices in the background sighing and moaning and doing things that just let you know that something really bad is going to happen.
So, how about in terms of, like you said, like musical strings? Like, do you play instruments yourself?
I'm a keyboard player. I actually don't play the violin or the cello, and I like. But when you're a composer, you study other instruments so that you can. It's kind of like being a playwright. You can't play all the roles, but you have to be able to really think of what that character would say. And so that's how I look at all the instruments. It's like, what would that instrument play if it was, if it was afraid or or in love or there. So you study the instruments and you learn how to write the music that they could play.
What is the weirdest thing that you've used to make the most interesting sound?
Do you know, I was trying to think of what that is. It's hard. I usually use processed sounds that have started as a real thing, but then have been distorted through digital magic until you can tell that they used to be real or they remind you of something, but they have their own distinct, can't tell what it is sort of sound. That's the sort of sounds that I like.
Very cool. And this is going to be totally random, but I'm very curious because it's all about horror. What actually scares you? Or has something actually happened to you while you were composing music and then you freaked out? You're like, oh my gosh, I think that was just the wind.
I always notice the sound outside my house where I don't know what it is, It's always the ones, like if something's rhythmic, it's like a machine, but when it's just random, then there's a live, there's a thing. So that's the thing that that's when I stop and take a look around.
Wow. Does that give you like a little bit of inspiration? Like, hey, if that actually happens, how would you apply that musical tune to it?
Well, I'm sort of aware of that. One thing that's also great in scary music is silence. And using when there's a pause, and that something's coming, but you don't know when. Right. So also in my scores, there are places where there's definite pregnant pauses that are too long, and that's designed to heighten the tension for sure.
Well, cool. Thank you so much for sharing your tip-top secrets.
No worries.
All right. Thank you, guys. This is Katrina with IdeateTV.